I focus on still doing my tried and true. You never veer away from that when that's what you do really, really well. But then you have to add and adjust with the market where you see fit to find a need and fill it.
In this episode with JJ Mazzo, you're going to find out how to grow your business the old school way, which I think sometimes is missing in today's world. You're also going to hear what the difference is between a loan officer and a loan originator. You're also going to get actionable steps as to how to meet real estate agents by walking into open houses on the weekends. And then, of course, value reiteration, which you're going to have to stay tuned to see what that even means. And my favorite, how do you become a millionaire after being dead broke and filing for bankruptcy in less than 5 years? JJ did this. And I got to say, just if you listen to this whole thing, you're going to walk away with some really action-packed, actionable steps into how to grow your business. I hope you like it as much as I did. Welcome to The Way with Ethos. We're here to empower, equip, and educate from the best in the business. And today we have JJ Mazzo here from both Cross Country Mortgage and Impact Coaching. And I'm really excited because I just met the guy not too long ago. But the truth of the matter is I've known him for a very long time just because we're kind of in the same geographical location. And of all people, his name just kept coming up. I was like, gosh, dang, who is this dude? Well, I finally got to meet him, and now he's on the podcast, so I'm really happy. JJ, great to meet you.
Oh, thanks for having me, brother. Good to meet you too, man.
Yeah, so it's interesting because, you guys are obviously, hopefully, if you're just listening, hopefully you can go and you can actually watch. Because I gotta say, this isn't your typical mortgage loan officer, right? Like, he's tatted from the neck all the way down and everywhere else. And from first appearance, I mean, that's like a rough dude. But the dude's incredible. And after I got to know him, I'm gonna say it this way just because it's the initial thing I had about you when we met. We went to Exactly What to Say.
Yeah.
Right. And in role playing, I saw your personality. And it's funny because you wear a cross. We just talked about it. You're very your belief in God is strong. I think it leads you. And you have devotionals in the morning, devotionals at night, and all throughout the day, right? So that tells me what kind of a person you are. But obviously, you're tatted up, and it's a rougher appearance. But one thing I'm going to say, dude, is that you were a stone cold killer. And when I say that, in the role playing, I saw why you're so successful in this business. Because even in role playing, you had no room. You didn't want to lose. You refused to lose in role playing.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it just is what it is.
No, it's a good thing. Yeah. I left thinking, there's no wonder he's so successful at this. He's a stone cold killer. He will not lose a deal no matter what. So.
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, I think just growing up, taking no for an answer was not a thing for me. It used to bug the crap out of my parents. And I have a daughter that does that. It drives my wife nuts. And I was like, man, she's going to be an amazing saleswoman someday. And my wife just tells me, stop saying that. I was like, I'm serious. So I've just been like that my whole life. It's fun.
Yeah.
I never notice it.
I think it's an admirable thing. It's not a negative by all means. I mean, in our industry, if you want to be the best of the best, you got to be better than the rest.
Yeah, you do. You definitely got to be better than everybody else.
So tell me, man, who are you today?
Who am I today? I'm a father, a husband. I'm a Christian. I'm a business owner, multiple business owner. I'm a mortgage banker, loan officer, true at heart, salesperson. I'm a coach. I'm an investor. I wear a lot of different hats depending on what we're doing that day, and juggling a lot of different things and passions. But I'd say first foremost, I'm a Christian. I'm a family person. That always hasn't been the case in that order. That's why I always want to make sure it's clear. I have to remind myself to keep things clear because that's what keeps things good.
Yeah, for sure. And how long have you been in the mortgage business?
I've been in the mortgage business since 1997. Which is, when we got in this building, it was this building was an iconic mortgage building back in the day that spit out a lot of loans. And So it brought back memories. And then the building next door was where I met my wife 20 years ago. But yeah, the late 90s, I started in the mortgage business. And right out of high school, I graduated in 1995. So it's all I've ever known and all
Oh,
I've ever
wow.
done for the most part.
So let's do this. Let's go back to day one and find out why you got in the mortgage business and what exactly what that looked like. But then from there, now that I know this, I want to kind of find out. I mean, I'm guessing since you got in so young, you weren't an investor. You didn't own multiple companies.
No, no.
So I want to find out how all that transpired and what led to what. And through that, what I'm hoping that everybody's going to find out here is, there's the you were just like everybody else. You started on day one with no experience and no nothing.
Right.
But how did you get there, right? I want to know your journey so that we can teach others that are kind of stuck wherever they're stuck right now. And I know you just started a coaching company not too long ago as well. So it's a perfect opportunity that you can just help coach everybody while you're at it.
Yeah. So, I mean, really going back to the beginning, I think this path was, I believe this path was set before me long before, I was born. And it kind of started I was raised in a family where it was interesting. It was a blended family. My mom had 3 boys. My dad had a daughter. They were in their mid-40s and had me. And that was a despairing difference. So, like, my siblings are in their 60s, the ones that are still around and alive. And Dad grew up during the Great Depression. Mom grew up during World War II. Just a completely different way that I was raised compared to, a lot of people that are my age. And I think that was a really good thing. The difference was my dad, when he came across he came from the East Coast, came over here where he met my mom. And he did everything from drugs to fencing to running a brothel, and he did all of it. And a lot of these crazy stories I didn't hear until my mid-20s, probably better. But he met my mom and she kind of kept him on the straight and narrow. But in doing that, it kind of gives you a background of what they were. I probably moved 10, 15 different times growing up. My dad lived paycheck to paycheck, just trying to make ends meet. And, I always joked with my dad, if he gave you first and last month's rent, that was the first and last month's rent you're probably going to get from my pop. So, I mean, we go from living in mansions for a short while with not a lot of furniture in it. Most of our house didn't have a lot of furniture in it. And then we'd live, in hotel rooms. And I'd be in hotel rooms with 2 of my brothers, and we'd be stuck in one room. And I remember vividly one year having a Thanksgiving turkey pulling out of a microwave. And I was just so pissed off because I was a teenager and embarrassed and shamed and all of that stuff, which there was nothing to be. And then you just got in trouble a lot. I was angry at my situation. Felt really out of place and, did lots of drugs, hung out with a lot of wrong people, and didn't have a really great connection with God at all. And I got arrested at 13 for stealing my parents' car and then sent to boarding school, all boys boarding school in New Hampshire, in rural New Hampshire. So, I mean, it doesn't get much further than that from Orange
By the
County.
state or by
No, by
parents?
my parents.
Okay.
And so off I went, and that's a tough age to go, from 14 and 15, 13, 14 is what it was. It was a rough age to go. So, all that did is by the time I got back, because the money they had was gone, my dad could never hold on to much. And that just gives you kind of an idea, an overview of just a lot of instability and a lot of really frustration. And so I think by the time I had got kicked out of the house was right after high school. And it really showed me that I wanted to create some stability, and I really wanted to have some stability and craved that. So I always worked. I worked from the time I was 14 years old. My dad was really good at instilling work ethic in me. He didn't give me anything. He didn't have much to give anyways. We always lived what seemed to be a pretty good life. I always had food on the table. I always had a place to live. So grateful for that. But I always wanted more. And so all of that fueled me quite a bit. And I think the biggest thing was finding the mortgage industry. At the time, we lived in Orange County, in Mission Viejo, and this was in Orange County. There were more mortgage companies per capita than anywhere else in the country, and this is where subprime had started. And the reason it was a great place was because the weather's great, and business wasn't so hard back then to have a business here as it is now. And so there were a lot of opportunities to be able to get into this business at a younger age. And I always had a lower voice that kind of held me, and it didn't matter because the business that I got into was internet leads. So in the late 90s, internet was just coming out for marketing. And Doug Lebda, who owned Lending Tree, was literally faxing Lending Tree leads out of his garage to our company because he had this new company and this new idea. So he would sell two leads to two different people, or the same lead, excuse me, to two different people.
Yeah.
So you had a 1 out of 2 shot of winning the deal on these things, and they were like $5 a piece or $7 a piece. Now, look back now, you buy a Lending Tree lead, they sell it to 5 different people for $75 a piece or whatever that is.
Right.
But at the time, they're building this company. So, my thing was starting out of working out of a phone book, calling, learning old school sales techniques from old school people, leaning on my voice, and then obviously getting into that internet lead marketing. So I was really consumer direct, call center, boiler room type thing, if you think about it, is what I grew up in, and really ran that wave because I wanted to help people, especially subprime. Really taught me like, wow, people can get into homes. They don't, all the reasons that they have to not be able to get a home are all kind of BS. They're all problems that could be solved. And so for me, I found pretty shortly, I was about 19 or 20 as I got into the mortgage business, bought my first place. And I realized that that was my passion and my why. I was like, man, if I can help people not have to live in hotels, not have to move 15 times, if I can help my parents get in a condo, which we did shortly thereafter, then this is what I want to do. So that was really my driving force outside of not wanting to be poor, wanting to have a great life and make money, which after that, there's a lot that had transpired as well. But I think that kind of takes you up to that point of what drove me, help other people not be in the same position that I was.
So let me ask a few questions in between there. First of all, now you don't do any leads, right? You're 100% referral based.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's a huge transition. And I know just from talking to a lot of loan officers myself, there's this fear of making that conversion from lead gen to self gen.
Should be.
And yeah, should be. And it definitely takes a lot longer to succeed in it. But what I always try and tell them is that, you have a job when you're lead gen and you have a career, right, when you're self gen. Because no matter what the market's doing, right, it's all going to lie on you, and you can make that happen no matter what. So what I like is, I want to kind of focus on that for a minute and see if we can help a loan officer who's stuck in this lead gen kind of lifestyle, which is very dependent on the lead and how good it is,
Correct,
right? And how much money the owner's spending on it and all this other stuff. How do you, what advice would you give somebody right now that says, I really want to do it, but I don't know if I can afford to make that leap, right? Every excuse in the world, whatever that might be, what do you tell that guy?
Yeah, I would say to get a mentor and work under someone that already is and runs a good business. I think the biggest difference is you have loan officers and you have loan originators. Loan officers are ones that work in call centers that can work up files, come up with solutions. Loan originators are the ones that actually can originate a loan with a name and number from a referral base. And so, to kind of take you back, I was doing great. I was in the call center. I was making a couple $100,000. I thought I was amazing. I met my wife. We had a kid and another kid on the way, and then 0809 hit, and we lost everything. So everything was wiped out because I just didn't have, no one ever taught me money skills that I learned shortly there, obviously after losing everything. But I was at a crossroad where I realized that I had built a business on basically sand foundation. I needed to build it on a rock foundation, and I didn't know what that was. And so a friend of mine had come and we worked in the call center together. She said, we should start doing purchase transactions. And I was like, well, purchase? What's that? Like, how do you do that? Like, I literally only did refinances and mostly all subprime. So you can imagine what that looked like in 0809. Not good.
Yeah.
And so she handed me some CDs. She said, listen to these, and you should come to this, coaching seminar. And I couldn't afford to go to the coaching seminar. I didn't qualify to even get in the room at this stage. And so I listened to the CDs and I started applying some of those tactics. And I did it while I was still working in a call center. So it got to the point where I had to rent a cubicle and I'm making 100 phone calls a day, getting leads and still pounding the phones, switching products, obviously, a bit in that market. But then also on the side, I was working weekends and I was making phone calls to build realtor businesses. So I would tell people, you got to first start with your target. Who is it that you want to go after? That's going to be real estate agents, financial planners, attorneys, those type of people that can feed you, CPAs. But realtors are really the fastest way to grow your business. Make a list. And I would tell you when I started, I didn't qualify the room so much because you didn't need to. Like my qualify for a realtor was a license and fog a mirror. And what I realized was if you look up their production, and they're amazing realtors. It takes time to get those people, but all I needed were leads. And so these were realtors, were extended sales force for me and were out there hustling, talking to people. And maybe they weren't great at closing the deal, but they were great at talking to people and finding out who they were. And I just needed to know as many of them as possible. So I would say creating a list, have an organized list of at least 50, and then hitting the town and literally every single weekend going to open houses, at least 10 open houses every single weekend, and start getting your name out there. And yeah, I was tattooed up, so I would be in the like 95 degrees in the summer with a suit and a tie on and covered everything up. And my mom, I could say she was probably laughing from the grave. She was gone by that time and just telling me I told you so. But you do what you have to do. So I was probably working 80, 90-hour weeks and followed that play for a long time. That's one of many plays until I just realized, like, my dad got sick. He was in an intensive care unit, and I had to shut my leads off because I had to be in the hospital room with him the whole time. They had like 5 different doctors coming in. So I thought I was going to lose him, and it was in there for about 3 months. I turned my phone off because it was the holidays, meaning I turned off not my phone, but the leads, so lending tree leads from coming in. And I realized that my phone kept ringing still. And I remember my dad's on a ventilator and he's laying there. He ended up making out of that for another 10 years after, but he's on the ventilator and I'm like, Pop, I can't believe this. Like my phone keeps ringing still. I hope you're not pissed because I'm like sitting there taking loan apps and he laughed later. He's like, I wasn't pissed. He's like, I was just pissed because you put me on life support. I told you not to, but I was like, okay. But yeah, that's where it started. And I never turned my leads on again. What I realized was all those seeds I was planting for, I was working 2 jobs. I had 40 hours making calls and 40 hours building a business. That's why I tell people it takes a long time. And I had to run that play for a good year, year and a half, but I ran it really hard and really efficient. If they said make 50 calls, I made 100. If they said meet 20 people, I'd meet 40. I did that just out of like, if this is what these people are doing to be successful, I need to be successful faster because of my situation. And it did. It took, I think at the time at bankruptcy, we were making 74 grand, which is below poverty level in Orange County. I was able to build that up to about 250 a year. And then within 30 months or 36 months, up to about $1.8 million in just commissions. And that was life-changing for me at that point.
Life-changing,
yeah. Life-changing for sure. So, it takes time, it takes discipline, but I would say coaching is probably one of the biggest things that changed my life.
So I got 2 questions for you there. I know somebody's going to say, all right, I'm going to go hit up open houses. What do I say?
Yeah. So I had a little trick that I did with open houses because I was the same way. What I realized is that people don't want to be like everything. They assume like, oh, I'm a lender. Hi, nice to meet you. And the first thing that the realtor's thinking is like, stop, don't bother me, right?
Yeah.
So you have to build a relationship or add value. So some of the little tricks that I did was I'd make an open house kit. In the open house kit, you'd have like a protein bar, you'd have a water, you'd have maybe a loan product or something that they could use. And then I'd walk in with a list of names of all my pre-approvals that I had. And even if it was for the past year and a half, right? And some of those people aren't shopping. So, and I would bring my kids as props. So I'd cruise in, I'd bring my kids as props. If you have kids, trust me, bring them as props. And one of them want to get into real estate like mine anyways. And I would walk in, I'd go, hey, I'm just here. I'm going to take a look around this property, amazing property. I'll be right back. So I'd walk around with the girls. I genuinely look at the property and be interested in it. And then on my way out, I would say, hey, I'm JJ. I'm with ABC Mortgage. I'm here because I'm actually looking for my referral partners. We're looking to find these people's houses, and I want to make sure I'm doing everything that I can for them. And I'm also stopping by them and to drop off a little something for them on my way as well. So I saw this house. I thought I might fit one of my clients. Your lender does that, right? And I already know the answer. Like, no, my lender doesn't do that. This guy's here for not just to come after me and so on and so forth. And I'd say, hey, you know what? I have one of those extra packets in my car that I'm dropping off to my referral partner. Let me go grab it and bring it back to you. So I would grab it, bring it back to him. My information's in it. I'd say, thank you so much. Amazing home. Congratulations on the listing. And then I would be gone. So now they know who I am. Then they like me because I'm actually adding value.
Yeah.
And then I'm already a stepping up whoever their lender is. And I don't know who they are. I don't care, but I already know they're not doing that.
Yeah.
And then which case the fortunes in the follow-up. And then it was just massive follow-up. And then I would hit them at the same open house again. But when I hit them up the second time, it's a little different because now we know each other. They know me, they like me, and it just started building that way. So that and just being omnipresent. So being part of your association and being in everything and anything that you can be. When I first started, literally I sponsored, it was called the Orange County Association of Realtors Beach Party. And it was back in like 2013 or 12. And I have a picture and it's like, I have this Easy Up that I got from Costco. And there's an inflatable pool for like kiddie pool, but a small one. And there's water in it and like little toys in it. And then you had to do the little fishing thing to get the toys out. And that was my sponsor booth. So that the kids can play at this beach party and win stuff. And I don't know, it didn't cost me anything. I have to buy beer or anything else, and I couldn't afford much. But like, I would do stuff like that all the time. And I would be at every meeting. I'd be at every broker preview. So it was just literally over a year, those little acts would compound each other. And it was like, holy moly, like, hey, JJ, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
And it was just, and it takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
And then realtors refer you to other realtors. So then they start doing that.
I'm going to ask you one more question in relation to that, and then I want to go back to this work-life balance because you were working 80 plus hours, right? So I don't want to forget about that. But I know just from being in the same community as you, one of the things I've seen about you a lot was 14-day closes, and then not personal guarantees, but like penalty per diems if you were late, right?
Yeah.
At what stage did you start doing that?
That was back in 2013. What I realized is most people find a need, fill a need. And what I found is I had a really great process to close a loan quickly, a purchase loan quickly. And I found that most people couldn't close in 30 days. And that was very true in Orange County. Like most people could not. And so once I figured that no one else really could, and I was winning relationships because I was able to do that. And so I was saving deals for people. I was getting offers accepted. And that was starting to build my name and reputation and earn me new referral partners. Then I was like, man, I really need to market this more. And I did. So much so that one of the largest companies started copying me on a 14-day total close. And that's why I had to change it to 10 because I knew they would never market 10.
Yeah.
That was too hard.
So that's I'm actually bringing this up specifically for that. So this is hilarious. Back in 2013, around there, I started doing 15-day closes, no loan contingencies, right? $250 per penalty per diem. Actually, it was $100 back then, penalty per diem. And then in 2016, I moved to my office to Mission Viejo, and all of a sudden I'm down south, right? It's totally different. And I'm thinking I'm going to nail this thing, like 15-day close everywhere. And all of a sudden I'm seeing JJ Mazzo everywhere, 14-day close, right? And I was like, who is this guy? And that's the first time that I actually like heard your name. And we never crossed paths really.
No.
We never even were up against, I mean, I never had a client that said I was talking to JJ or anything like that. And that just goes to show you how big of a world it is, right?
Totally agree.
So then I remember one day I was down to like 12 and I was like pimping 12. And then I start seeing your 10-day close. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This guy just won't stop. Right. Yeah. And anyways, I always respected it. I hated it. I respected it. You know what I mean? The whole bit. I thought it was great. And,
I appreciate it.
And one of the things that I want to get across to everybody is like, you can go to open houses, right? And you can go put time in, but if you don't have a plan, you're never going to succeed.
Right.
And then on top of that, if you are just as good as everybody else, that's about what your income is going to be. It's never going to be any better than that. So, both of us here, we took a step forward because we saw a need. Everybody else was closing in 30 days or more, right? And back then, it was such a wild market. There was multiple offers. I remember one time there was like 90 offers on one house. Well, how do you set yourself apart from that?
Yeah.
And I know for me, it was the 15-day close. It was the no loan contingencies. And I got to just harp on this for a second. I'm guessing you're going to agree with me. In the old days, a couple would get all dressed up on a Saturday. They'd go into open houses like, oh my gosh, honey, I love this place, right? And let's go talk to the realtor. And they write an offer, and then you go get your loan contingencies to go get your loan.
Right.
But back then, when we came up with this, you needed a loan approval
Yep.
letter just to write an offer. So for the life of me, I couldn't even understand why anybody had any loan contingencies. If you have an approval, you shouldn't have any contingencies,
No.
right? So okay, yeah. Well, you got to make sure title's clear and escrow, but that's not your loan. You can talk through that a little bit, right? So I came in hot and heavy with these no loan contingency things, and JJ obviously did too, and it worked for both of us. And then when that didn't work, we had to cut from 30 down to 15. So I'm just going to say right now, you have to be the best at your trade, right? I mean, okay, there's always somebody better, but you have to be damn good at what you do, and you have to set yourself apart from everybody else. However, you have to do that. Whatever your strength is, do that, right?
Right.
Like, get to a place where you set yourself apart from everybody. And quite honestly, if you don't have it in you to think like that, then I don't think you're ever gonna. You can still have a good living in this industry, right? But you're never gonna get to that upper echelon, and that's fine. Not everybody needs to because
No.
it is a different way of doing business. But I wanted to bring that up because I always
Yes.
remembered that 10-day close. I was,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, you gotta be kidding me
Yeah,
again.
it was, and then that's about, and then TRID happened, and it was like, okay, that's as fast as we're going to be able
Yeah,
to close, right?
just can't do
Legally,
it. Yeah,
and so, but to your point, it's find a need. You need to find a need to find it. There's whoever finds a solution for a problem in anything, but particular industry, and particularly our industry, and there's so many areas that you can do that and or associate yourself like people that are just associate just with veterans and doing VA loans. For me now, I do a lot of non-QM stuff. We have a lot of really great non-QM type of opportunities. So I focus on still doing my tried and true. You never veer away from that when that's what you do really, really well. But then you have to add and adjust with the market where you see fit to find a need and fill it. And I throw non-QM out there, but because so many of our referral partners don't understand the opportunities that they can get people in homes now that 5 years ago you couldn't. There were
yeah,
no bank statements, loans then. There were no 1099 only. There were no DSCRs. So it has to be consistently reiterated as well. So I would say also you need to be really good at value reiteration. Don't think that because you've done it for 10 years. I mean, I had a referral partner, to your point, that I don't think he ever closed a deal with me over 15 days. But every time he'd come to me and we closed, I don't know, 100 deals together over a decade, and he'd always say, "Hey, can you still close in that time?" I'm like, "Buddy, like I don't think
yeah,
you ever haven't."
yeah,
So it just showed me like you got to keep reminding them
yeah.
what you do, why you do it, get the reticular activator turned on so that they don't forget. And when they think of that problem, they think of you.
Yep.
The quick close and the guarantee problem solves for almost every deal, but when
Yeah.
you start going hyper like product specific, then it's only going to be for those deals. So I would say make sure you're focusing on solving a problem or a need that they can all use. And the market, that's a big thing I do. I help realtors and coach realtors generate and convert leads. I know that's a biggest problem that they have is how to generate referrals and convert those referrals. So that's really the big pillar of my business now is not just quick close. That's oh, by the way, I do a quick close, but let me show you how to generate and convert referrals, and they're going to send me the deals to do the quick close. So really finding that niche for you, I think you said it. You said it spot on is key.
So now I want to get back to that last question. So a lot of us in this industry, me included, I used to work a lot, right? A lot of hours, and that created a lot of imbalance in my personal life. And I've been divorced once before, and I've learned a lot of lessons, right? And I got two kids from my first marriage that didn't quite get all of me as the other two, and it's just like a guilt thing that I've always had, right? A lot of women, I come from a Greek family, and just they don't make women like that anymore. Like, doesn't matter how much my dad worked, my mom said, do you want me to bring you dinner? Do you want me to bring you something? Right? Like, there was just a different way.
Yeah, different.
Everybody always wants more of you. Maybe you just got the coolest wife in the world, but what did that look like for you?
I have the most, I don't want to say I have the most. My wife is amazing in so many ways, and we work together now, but she's probably the most stubborn person that I know. Clearly, if she's still with me, I would tell you that. But she also has mad love. So I say that jokingly, but I would say that we're ride or die, So I think having a relationship that you're ride or die. And so I've been very blessed to have that. She is my best friend. And so having a best friend that you're ride or die with, during those crazy times, you lean on each other to make it through and push through those. I would say for me, I don't, and my buddy Gavin, business partner Gavin in Impact said this, like, we both all agreed. I don't believe in life balance, because there's always something out of balance. There's always something. So I think when you look at it from work-life collaboration, you have to figure out, how can we do a work-life collaboration? How do I collaborate in life to be able to make sure that I'm feeding the fuel of what matters most in my personal life and feeding the fuel that matters most in my work life to ensure that. And we work to live. We don't live to work. And I think I know for me, as I've gone through a lot of transformational work over the past 8 years. I would tell you too, that a lot of times we're just running from something. And so when we're at work all the time, we're usually just running from something that's probably at home, or something that we're running from ourselves. So I think taking a pause and a deep, hard look, which is like, well, if I'm working to have nice things and have a family, and I worked really hard and really love my family, then why am I running away from all that and running towards work? What's the real reason for that? And I think the deeper that I got to that, the more understanding that I got to that, then the more I could be like, okay, cool. Well, now that I've understood that I don't want to run from things, I want to be towards my family, I want to be collaborative with my work and life. Well, cool. How do we do that? And then it's just really creating a plan, utilizing the same 24 hours a day that everyone gets to be able to maximize that. And I think we all want, like, if you got to show up to work 40-hour work week, and in our business, you can make 100 grand or you could make $1 million. Why wouldn't you just want to make $1 million? It's not like this is an hourly job. Like, everyone has the equal opportunity to either make 100 grand or $1 million. And that's where I was like, okay, well, what's the difference? Okay, well, it's maximizing prospecting time. It's maximizing conversions and learning those things. And so I think,
and systems,
systems, structure, and the discipline is in the freedom is in the discipline. And I always thought discipline was like constraint and like not good, and like, discipline is anti-weed smoking, like discipline's not good, God, discipline, no, like that was all wrong. What I realized once I had it, which is when I had God's word and his disciplines to follow, when I had work discipline and systems and structure to follow, it gave me all the freedom in the world, where I make ridiculous money and I work way less hours because of those disciplines and sticking with them.
It just makes me remember one day at church, the pastor was up there saying, unfortunately, too many people think believing in God and being a good Christian means that you can't have any fun. And he goes, it's totally the opposite.
Yeah.
Once you're there, the freedom that comes with it is really where the gold is,
Yeah, I totally agree. Because, trying to put it all on your shoulders just by yourself, that's a lot, And I think too, like to your point, like we, as breadwinners, a lot of times, male or female, it doesn't matter. We wear this on our shoulders and we don't want to share it. The more that we can share it and seek counsel from other people, mentors, coaches, bosses, spouses, where we're at truly and why we're in this, then the more counsel and help that we have to get out of that situation to be able to be more successful too.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, obviously, it's a difficult time for a lot of people. You're obviously still crushing it from the last time I looked at your numbers and all that, but a lot of people are just dying right now. So much so that a lot of people have gotten out of the business, more than half. Actually, I think it's like 70% or something, right? So has there ever been a time that you thought about quitting? And what I'm trying to do is find out if there is, because maybe somebody that's listening right now can relate to that and have a little hope.
I mean, the better question would be like, how many times have you thought about quitting would be a better answer to that question. Listen, I think everyone second guesses why they do something. I mean, whether you're an actor, you're a waitress, or you're a mortgage banker, I mean, we think there's just some magic pill about what we do. And that's the difference between making a living and working. Work's work. I mean, and listen, when the market's really good, 2020, 2021, that was us making livings. Those are all fake years. That is not like, that doesn't happen often. If you were there, then awesome. You were able to take advantage of it. Hopefully you saved a lot of it. And it showed us with 70% gone, a lot of people didn't save and they weren't prepared for the winter.
Yeah.
Those of us that went through 08, 09, I went through 9/11, I went through the dot-com bubble. Man, if I hadn't learned it after all that, then I deserve not to have it. But I was waiting for the shoe to drop for a good 4 years before the shoe dropped. And it was like, it dropped and I was like, oh man, this sucks.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like shocked by it, So I think we're always second guessing that. And we're almost 3 years in. May is next month, right? So 3 years into what I call the great rate hike, because it was the single fastest rate increase that we've seen in such a short period of time. And that was because we saw the single fastest rate decrease in a short period of time. So, there's always going to be a reaction to that. And so, man, over the 3 years, it's all the time. I mean, I had to lay off a lot of people to make sure we keep the division floating. I had to cut people's pay to keep things floating. I had to work twice as hard, meet twice as many people to get half as much production out of it, and
make half as much,
make half as much, if not even less than that. So, but these are plays that I was able to pull out of my tool belt that I've been before, and I was like, okay, it's here. So for me, I was like, okay, that means on the other side of this. And this is where I tell people, man, on the other side of this is where it's so good. And so many people, man, they want to give up right before they're ready to reach the top of that mountain. And I'm just that guy that refuses to take no for an answer. It's who I am. And every time I get to that point, I talk myself out of it. And I think that a lot of people that are in it now are really going to gain market share. They're going to gain reputation. They've gained 3 years worth of, people that have higher rates, but planting seeds for 3 years before there's going to be another 2, 3, 400,000 competitors out there. So you're going to be so far ahead of these people to be taking care of the next run, because it's typically 3 years down, maybe a year flat, and a good 4, 5, 6 years or more up. And that's what I think always keeps me looking forward to, is the uptime, where I get to hire a bunch of people, I get to do a bunch of units, I get to have a bunch of fun doing it.
I'd probably venture out to say that use this time, like you said, you did a lot of transformational work during a period of your life. I would say use this time to do transformational work on yourself.
Yeah.
Figure out how to be better at your trade, how to be a better husband, a better father if you are one, or wife or whatever, right? And become happier with yourself. Because the one thing I live by is that it doesn't matter what the market's doing. There's always somebody that's crushing it. Any market, just be that person.
Yeah.
Be the person that's crushing it.
Yeah. And getting your systems and stuff in order. Like, now's a great time. If there's all these things that you ever wanted to do, or all these things about your business that you wanted to improve, when things are down is the time that you should be doing it. This is really where you should lean in, because, let's say you're doing 5 deals a month. Well, you ain't going to be doing it when you're doing 15. So, but if you want to get to 15, you want to capture as much business as possible, and you want to get as much market share as possible, then your systems need to be dialed, your processes need to be dialed. And in order to do that, you need time and energy. And this gives us a little bit of time and energy to double down in those areas.
For sure. Has there ever been a time where you just totally screwed up? You just, even downright embarrassing?
Oh yeah, man, all the time. I mean, like, there's no way around it, right? We're not perfect, and we all know that. And I think we have these expectations, and we know our referral partners sometimes have these expectations of us to be flawless and perfect every single time. And all it takes is one time, 2 maybe max, missteps or mistakes, and they're gone. And I think we just have to have some grace for ourselves. I mean, there's been dozens and dozens of times where I've been embarrassed, screwed up, but that's where you just have to have grace and be like, dude, I'm not perfect. What can I learn from this situation?
That's it, right?
And the more of those mess ups I have, I mean, I would say all my successes are probably followed by 5 to 10 failures on each of them till I figured it out. And I always said, listen, I'd rather, I'm not a perfectionist, so I'd rather try it and fail 10 times. I'll learn 10 times as much, and I'll get it figured out quicker than someone who's trying to get it done perfect, because it's just not possible.
And be bold. Be bold. Go after it.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's either that or don't do anything.
Yeah, you can, listen, failures can either propel you or paralyze you. And you just have to be honest, like, hey, is this paralyzing me right now? Because fear will paralyze people, or fear is going to make you run. And I've always said, fear is going to make me run. Like, I'm going to run towards it. And so, like, buffaloes is a great example, right? A buffalo when they see a storm coming, they run to the storm, into the storm as fast as they can so that they pass through the storm faster versus other animals run away from the storm and it just keeps catching up with them. It lasts twice as long. And so I think I love that animal. It's a great example of perseverance that people should be able to look at and model that, and just be truthful.
I have a great picture of that buffalo in the storm with that saying.
Dude, yeah. Me too in my office.
I just want to see it.
Two random people, random different offices. Yeah. So, everyone listening, I'm telling you, it's really, really a great story and a great picture to put up for sure, especially in this market.
Yeah. Okay. So you filed for bankruptcy in what year?
2009. So 2009 was a crazy year. 2009, my daughter was born in January. My mom passed away in July. My dad was in the ICU. My mom's mom died. We finished filing bankruptcy in June and foreclosed on the house, I think was in March. So it was a stellar year, bro.
Yeah.
No, it was lots of mistakes.
And I would venture out to say that this season right now for a lot of people in our industry could be something similar, right?
Totally.
They're going through it. Only their house didn't decline by half.
Right.
Right. That's the one thing if they had one. But what I want to go after is from that time over just let's call it a decade, a 10-year window, which I know may seem like a lot to a lot of people, a long time, but it's not. It goes by quick. What did you accomplish? Because you said you started other businesses, you are an investor. What I want to do is give hope to some people and say, no matter how bad things are right now, look at what you can accomplish over 10 years if you just get after it.
Yeah. So over 10 years as we build, so that would be 2009 to 2019. So over that period of time, that's not even taking into account 2020, the past 5 years, right? Which 2 of the past 5 years were really, really great. Was able to get in Scotsman's Guide. I think I've been in, every single year since 2013. $100 million producer every single year, except I think like the year before last. And then number 1 in Orange County, was able to purchase multiple new homes, was able to start real estate investing again, was able to build a 7-figure nest egg as far as investments go. That has turned into now more than that. I mean, just using discipline, right? So learning to save 20%. And what I learned was when my income would go up 20%, then my savings would go up 20% instead of having it go towards lifestyle at 20%, right? And then if my income went up 50%, then man, I would increase my savings 50%. So it got to a point where I was able to live a really, really great lifestyle, stay at whatever hotel and all that stuff, but I was saving so massively that at least half of my check was going into an investment account. And that's where the rule of 72 and compounding interest also took hold. So just building everything that I had wanted financially. There was still a lot that I needed to work out, emotionally and going back and dealing with a lot of the childhood trauma that I originally talked about. And, so I'd gained 75 pounds, 80 pounds of which I've lost. But man, trust me, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Yeah. So during that decade, I realized at about 2016 that I had some other things that I needed to work on, right? It's like just because things are going great in business doesn't mean things are always going great everywhere. Yeah. And I had a lot of mental health things that I needed to go through and push through as well, just to be a better father, be a better husband, just be a better person, human, and be able to, the more people that I had working for me, the more I was like, man, these people rely on me. Again, that weight coming on. And I was like, I don't want to do this weight alone. And I don't want to do this weight the same way that I did before. So although the financial success was really, really great during that time, there was some epiphanies about some things that I needed to change in my personal life as well. So I'm really proud of a lot of those accomplishments. Many of those have happened probably over, like I said, the past 10 years from now. But yeah, man, I mean, now I'm 47 now, so I had the ability to retire at like 38, which is, the interest that I get off of my investments just alone pay for my lifestyle. That for me was just a dream. So now it's how do I pay it forward? Thus, creating Impact Elite coaching with my partners and working at the core, which is where I worked as a director and worked as a senior coach for about 10 years, where I learned a lot of great things. We just wanted to do something more evolved and a little bit different. And, that was a big thing about changing mindset and just paying it forward,
Yeah.
and if I build more wealth, awesome. Obviously I'm fiscally still just doing the right things that I need to do for
Yep.
my family and my
So it's
legacy
a
for my
discipline you
kids.
started. It doesn't just go away now.
It's not
Yeah.
going away. Although sometimes I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But for the most part, I have checks and balances and people that really, really help me and mentor me. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I think there's always a constant that you're working on. Right now, I'm just really working hard on my relationship with God, right? Or I'm really working hard on business and processes. So I think for anyone, regardless of how great things are, how great things build, never stop working, never stop growing, never stop learning.
You know, I just, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are always at this stage discouraged because of the feds didn't cut the rates, or the realtors not giving them any deals. I mean, you name it, right? Like, here's what I'm getting across here is JJ is just like everybody else. And let's face it, he actually had a pretty tough childhood from what he just told us, which is probably a lot better than what a lot of you guys had, but he persevered. And I think that's like a great word for you, because you've persevered and you don't allow, maybe you did at one point, but you don't allow all of this stuff in your life anymore. And I think that's like something that I would love to get across to everybody else is, don't allow it in your life, and then work on getting better. Because I know your past doesn't just go away. Your upbringing, your whatever story you have in your head doesn't just go away, but you have the ability to rewrite that story, and you have the ability to be as successful as you want to be. You have the ability to be as good of a husband or as good of a father or a wife, as you want to be, whatever that is, right? And now I want to get into this impact coaching, because I know it's a little bit more of probably a passion project for
Yeah.
you, I would say, right? And how can somebody get involved in that? What does that look like?
Yeah, you bet. So they can go to impactelitecoaching.com. Check us out there. You can follow me on Instagram at JJMazzo _. And, this is just a community of some of the best coaches that we all worked together at our previous employer and came together and have all have similar backgrounds and similar stories, right? That's why I always remind people, like, you don't need to be inspired by your story or my story. Everyone has a story that they should be inspired by themselves. Like if they all wrote down the three worst things that have ever happened to them in their life up to this point, and they look down at those things and then look at where they are, they've already accomplished a lot and persevered a lot. And so this is a really great community where a lot of us get together, support one another, put in systems and structure and processes and accountability to be able to find what your freedom is and be able to really feed into that freedom. So we also have an event coming up on May 9th called the Impact Lab Experience. So this is kind of like the anti-conference. So we've got everything from AI to branding, marketing, all going to be surrounded around mostly realtors as well as lenders, where we're going to have an hour of instruction and then an hour of application. And it's like a 5-to-1 coach ratio. And all of the coaches in Impact are all 7-figure earners, all very, very big producers. And then we have some of the best top realtors in the nation as well, Haley Garcia, who runs our realtor division. So they'll be able to, sit down. We're going to be doing a class about exactly what to say. We're going to make some trees for them. The branding, we're going to help them with brand ethos. So it's going to be really, really cool, because we always feel like you go to a conference, you take all these great notes, and then you leave and it's like you implement what you can. We want them to come, learn, and then walk away with implementation before they leave that day. So that'll be an exciting event.
When is that one?
That's May 9th. It's going to be in San Antonio. It's called the Impact Lab Experience. And they can go to our website and Impact Elite Coaching and really just find all the details there.
Awesome. That sounds like a great time. So I'm going to wrap it up, but I want just a couple quick lightning round questions for you.
Yeah, you bet.
What's your favorite book?
Favorite book, The One Thing and 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma.
5 a.m.
Two,
Club.
I got two. The
Okay.
5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma was a game changer for me as far as a personal game changer. Great book, great
Why?
author.
Why?
It created the systems and structure that I needed early morning so that I can get myself ready for my day. So from 5 a.m. essentially till about 7:30, it's all me time. So I give myself the deposits I need so I can, everyone else takes withdrawals. You're a business owner. It's all
Yeah.
withdrawals after that. So it's really helped with my mental ability and capacity to be able to lead at a high level. And then the one thing is how to get it all done. And, just focusing on what's the one thing that you can do, that by doing that, everything else is either unnecessary or limited to do it. And that was really the time management thing that changed my life, to be able to do everything that you need to do in a day.
Yeah. I'd love, I know we don't have time today, but offline at some point to talk to you about what your structure looks like.
Yeah.
Because I know you're just super like diligent about your structure. It's
Yeah.
just,
Kind of super freak. Yep.
yeah. But I think that's what it takes, right?
Yeah.
And there's that visual that I always have in my head. It's the jar full of big rocks,
Yeah.
and then little rocks, and then smaller
Yeah.
rocks, and then the sand, right? And then it all works when you do the big rocks first.
Yes.
I think that's how every day should always be structured. Favorite quote?
Reasons or results. You can't have both, and that's kind of been used in different variations from Tony Robbins to other people. But reasons or results, you can't have both. I just realized the more excuses you make, they're going to be counterproductive to anything that you want as far as getting the results. You start figuring out how to solve the reasons, then man, the results come shortly thereafter.
Yeah. And last question. If I picked you up right now and dropped you off somewhere in the United States, you have all the knowledge you have just enough money to get by, nothing crazy, and you had to succeed within, let's call it 6 months. What would you do?
What would I do? I would do what I do now. I would get a list of probably 500 realtors. I would find out what the realtor association was in that particular area. I would make sure I bought a couple really cheap suits to make it last. And I would start pounding open houses like crazy every single month. And I would be going through the call structure and fortunes in the follow up, and just follow the systems that we have in place at Impact Coaching to make sure that I turn that into money in a short period of time. Short period of time being, 6 to 12 months that you see it, but we have such an ability to earn large amounts
Yeah.
on volume and commissions that really in 6 months you should be able to see enough to start paying bills. Once you do that and invest it back in your business, then you can double it pretty quickly.
Yeah. So, guys, I don't know if you heard that or not, but it's pretty old school, right? I mean, it's going back to old school tactics.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend all sorts of time creating a social media this, a social media that, and a posting calendar. And I mean, you just got to get out there and do it.
That's it. I mean, listen, you can see I'm all over social and all that stuff, but I spend very little time actually on it. I look for things that have an ROI. I know that if I talk to someone whose job it is to find home buyers, and I build a relationship with them and they trust me, that they're going to give me the referral for that home buyer. And if I'm in the business of lending money to home buyers, that's kind of a match made in heaven,
Yeah.
versus praying and spraying, low conversions, and looking cool and getting a bunch of likes. I still have yet to meet a ton of people that do it differently, that haven't been successful. Most every single, and I know a lot of the top originators in this nation, and they do it very similar. Sure, you may sprinkle some fairy dust on it now and again, but it's shake hands, kiss babies, make phone calls, great follow up, great systems and follow through,
Yeah.
and then you'll do okay.
So that's it, man. Just one last one. And I know you said it earlier, but we're going to say it again because you have a lot to offer people, and I know you want to help people. How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, just DM me at JJ Mazzo _ at Instagram. And, if they have questions or really want to get 15-minute coaching session or something like that, man, that's what fills my cup, honestly. Then just DM me and I'll be happy to connect.
That's awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
And
Great.
guys, if this brought value to you, please let us know. Please share it with other loan officers that need it. I know a lot of people need it right now. And this was awesome, like just down to earth ways to grow your business. So I hope you got a lot of value out of it. We're here for you every time. Remember, we're here to empower, equip, and educate loan officers with the best in the business and the way lending should be done. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.